All right, so for some of you guys, this might not be new news. You've probably heard about this already. In the beginning of this year, they talked about the development of possibly coming out with the new 8.3 liter Duramax. That's kind of the rumor mill right now. And I think what really got this thing started was from the YouTube channel TFL, which I'm a big fan of, by the way. They came out with an article naming this thing the Mega Max. It's not the official name. But let me go ahead and read the article to you guys really quick just to keep you guys informed if some of you guys don't already know this already. And at the very end, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you guys sort of my opinions and my thoughts on it as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's a big rumor. Is GM really building a new 8.3 liter Duramax turbo diesel V8? So while similar truck segments are focused on low displacement, turbocharged gas engines, or ditching internal combustion entirely, not only does each of the big three still offer big gas V8s, for example, the Ford launching a Godzilla 6.8 liter engine to replace the old Boss 6.2 liter, but their turbo diesel offerings churn out more power and torque every few years. In the spirit of building higher output diesels with more torque than ever, a source with knowledge of GM's internal powertrain development alerted us to a new, bigger, and far more potent powertrain about to emerge as the king of the hill, a massive 8.3 liter beast. Now, at least that's the claim. It's important to note, of course, that this is absolutely 100% unconfirmed by General Motors. As far as we've been told, if this engine is indeed well into its development cycle, we still may not hear about this for another year or two. So we're certainly still in the rumor mill territory here, but there are several reasons why we think this does not make sense. Now, as far as the headline specs go, we've been told that the new 8.3 liter diesel engine, which we are calling the Mega Max, there's no indication that this is a name that GM has in mind for it, but it puts up to 600 horsepower and 1,200 pound-foot of torque. Now, for reference, the current 6.6 liter L5P Duramax turbo diesel available in the 2024 and newer Chevy Silverados and GMC Sierra HD models manages up to 470 horsepower and 975 pound-feet of torque. Now, if the automaker does see this in production, GM would leapfrog ahead of Ford, whose 6.7 liter Powerstroke diesel V8 cranks out 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque in its high output form. And despite packing a few cylinders, the 6.7 liter HO Cummins in Ram's heavy-duty trucks produces 420 horsepower and 1,075 pound-feet of torque. Now, what other specs can we expect from this large displacement of this giant 8.3 liter Duramax? Even though the information we received only covers top-level numbers, you can expect an 8.3 liter option would have a major impact on GM's HD trucks capabilities. Right now, Ford is leading the way with certain models able to achieve a gooseneck towing rating of up to 40,000 pounds. When properly equipped, the 2024 Chevy Silverado 3500 HD or the GMC can tow a perfectly respectable 36,000 pounds. That's still a great rating, but it's not class leading, and that's the name of the game as the big three aim to sell as many trucks as they possibly can. And interestingly, another strong case for larger displacement engines centers around emissions. There is a potential with an 8.3 liter engine to make better power and torque while still managing lower cylinder pressure and temperature, resulting in lower overall NOx emissions, thanks to having a lower compression ratio. And it also begs the question, will they make this up to the Allison branded 10L 1010 speed automatic transmission? And there's plenty of wiggle room to upgrade these transmissions in the aftermarket to handle ludicrous power outputs, so it stands to reason GM would at least take some steps to beef up the factory unit with a new, larger, and more potent engine. And when can we possibly see the 8.3 liter on sale? There's a ton of unknowns here, as General Motors has yet to acknowledge the engine even exists, let alone when it may go on sale or how much it may cost. Per our source, we may see this engine actually go into GM's heavy-duty trucks around 2026, though we obviously can't verify the information through any official channels, even off the record at this point. So that's basically a summary from the TFL article that I just read, and I really do appreciate those guys. But sort of my take on this, if you think about it, from '01 until now, Duramax came out with a 6.6 liter displacement, and it's always been the same. And when you think about Ford, of course, they went from 7.3, 6.0, 6.4, of course, to the legendary 6.7 liter Powerstroke. In every single category, of course, pound-foot of torque, as well as horsepower, they are leading the way between the Chevy and the Dodge. And then when talking about Dodge, they came out with the 12-valve, 5.9 liter Cummins, and then the Cummins turbo diesel 24-valve, and then a little bit after that, they came out with the common rail diesel injection 5.9 liter Cummins. And they wanted to step up their game, and rightfully so, to the 6.7 liter Cummins. Again, a very reliable, trusty engine. But as far as Duramax goes, they just stuck with that 6.6 liter. I think overall Duramax is definitely due to up their displacement. Now to go to 8.3 liter, that's huge. Just knowing where my mind goes, and a lot of you guys that watch the channel, I'm sure you guys would agree with me, that's pretty exciting. 8.3 liter, if they actually come out with that, the endless possibilities that you can do to upgrade that engine would be insane. I actually watched a video on this topic as well from a guy. He was at a dealership kind of talking about the 3.0 liter Duramax, how it's an inline six. And if they were to make an 8.3 liter, would it be a V8 or an inline six? That's kind of another interesting topic since they have already started making the inline six Duramax engines. But of course, you're not going to compete with Cummins. Cummins did come out with an 8.3 liter, but they never incorporated it into a medium duty truck. But let us know in the comments, would it be practical to put this Monster Max or Mega Max into a medium duty pickup truck like this? That would be crazy. But going back to what I just talked about with the Ford leading the way with the highest towing capabilities of 40,000 pounds. And just behind that, of course, is Chevy at 36,000 pounds. So you're only, what, 4,000 pounds off of that 40,000 pounds. I think what really limits that is the chassis. The Fords are way more beefier when it comes to the front end. Of course, these are independent front suspension trucks, these GMs. So if they were to upgrade the front end suspension, maybe just doing a straight axle, which in my opinion, I think that the GM fan base would go crazy over a straight axled Chevy Silverado or GMC. That would be pretty sweet. But that would be like the ultimate truck. An 8.3 liter with an Allison 10 speed with a straight axle front end. I'm pretty confident if GM actually came out with this monster truck that it would outdo Ford, no problem. Ford would have to step up their game as well. And when looking at the numbers, the L5P Duramax right now currently, I believe is at 470 horsepower. And if this 8.3 liter actually hit the market at 600 horsepower and 1,200 pound-foot of torque, that's a huge jump. But let's be honest with ourselves, would this actually be practical? Not to mention a brand new 2024 GMC, you're looking at $110,000. Can you imagine what the price tag would be on one of these Mega Maxes? As a matter of fact, let us know in the comments right now how much GM would charge for a ultimate Denali package with an 8.3 liter in it in 2026. How much money do you think they would actually sell that thing for?
1 billion, gajillion, fifillion, shabadoodle.
I mean, seriously, what would the price tag be for one of these? It would have to be affordable or nobody would buy it. But what's affordable? $150,000? $200,000? I mean, who knows? When GM, Ford, and Dodge are competing, who's got the biggest, baddest truck? To be honest with you, I think all three across the board, they have their pros and their cons. They're really all not too far off from each other when it comes to numbers. If I'm not mistaken, the older L5P Duramaxes, your 2017s to 2023s, have a 11 blade turbo in them. And I know the 24 turbos just came out with a 10 blade turbo, which is going to put out a little bit more power. Of course, they are able to tune the engine up a little bit higher to make a little bit more horsepower. And as far as staying with the pack, GM, you shouldn't have a single problem doing that whatsoever. I just think that you need to put more focus into the chassis. That's just my opinion. And by 2026, of course, the EPA is going to put crazy sanctions. They're going to scrutinize this engine like you wouldn't believe to make sure that it fits their narrative. Or not their narrative, I'm sorry, their standards. And I know that this is rumors, but I just want to believe that this is true. This is so exciting. You would think that if they're going to consider putting a bigger D-Max engine into a truck, it's going to be like a Class A truck. But no, they're considering putting it in an HD truck. So if this is reality, that's pretty awesome. If my channel's still kicking, you can rest assured that I'll be making a YouTube video on that. And if I'm a rich guy by 2026 and I just have $150,000 or $200,000 laying around to buy one of these trucks, I will most definitely buy one because that would be super cool to do a bunch of YouTube videos on it. But with all that being said, I feel like I owe this video to you being a diesel channel. I know a lot of guys are asking me to make this video on my thoughts on the 8.3 liter. So that is my take on the 8.3 liter Duramax idea. Do I think it's going to go into production? It's such a toss-up. I'm not exactly sure. You know how it is right now, guys. They're trying to push everybody to the electric market, which I really don't want to talk about. But obviously the electric market would have a lot to keep up with because there's no way that a electric truck, a 2500 HD electric Silverado, if there's a thing like that nowadays, that can keep up with a truck like mine with a gooseneck connected to it with 30,000 pounds of equipment. I just don't see a electric truck pulling something like that for long periods, long distances, and actually doing any real work. I have no doubt in my mind that that electric truck will pull that gooseneck trailer just fine. But once you hit about 200 miles down the road, what happens then? especially if you're using your truck to make money. If you're using that vehicle to haul things, to make money, to sit on the side of the road for, you know, an hour, 2 hours to charge up your electric truck, I just don't think that that's a feasible or realistic option in my opinion. That's all. I know I briefly hit on the Godzilla engine they put in the Ford, the larger engine, but if you guys can remember, early 2000s, they did come out with that 8.1 liter Vortec coupled to an Allison 1000 5-speed transmission. It did happen. I think the truck was ahead of its time. I know it was a gas guzzler, but in today's economy, if they came out with a larger displacement gasoline engine, we're not talking about a 6.6 or a 6.2. We're talking about an 8.3 liter gasoline engine. And not only that, coupled to that Allison 10-speed, that'd be pretty exciting as well. I personally think that that 8.1 liter Vortec was ahead of its time. But if we would have put more technology in that engine, I think that thing would have been a beast. I'm personally concerned about the diesel vehicle production in the future, honestly. We'll see how that goes, only time will tell. But I want to hear your guys' opinion. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If anyone knows any top secret information, leak it in the comments below. Guys, head down there, read it up. It'd be very interesting to hear what you guys have to say about this matter. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get back to the builds there in the shop. I know that I'm working on the sun-kissed Duramax. That thing is taking a little bit longer right now just because of the workload in the shop right now. It's kind of hard to keep up with that, but I do know that it will be getting done pretty shortly here, so I'm really pumped to reveal that to you as well. But with the workload in the shop, if I can't post any videos on that in between times, I am going to be working on the compound turboed Cummins that I own, the dumpster Cummins, as well as an LMM Duramax that I'm kind of working a video on as well. If you guys found any value in this video whatsoever or would like to see me make more videos like that, definitely hit the like button for me. I really would appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, and of course, don't forget to hit that notification bell on the way out. We'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned.